Hello, I'm Elgato, and welcome back to an episode of my Update Adventures Let's Play. This is the Let's Play where I'm playing through the various updates that have come out for Minecraft on the Bedrock versions, building stuff, killing stuff, and of course, destroying stuff, as you can see from my pretty much entirely destroyed desert. Anyway, the reason I'm here today is not to talk about this destroyed desert, but it's instead to talk about something kind of serious about 2018, because now that it's the end of the year, I think this would be a good opportunity to talk about something which is a real statistical anomaly, because I was robbed for the first time in 2018, but I wasn't robbed just once in 2018, I was robbed in April, and then I was robbed in November, and then I actually had a credit card, set of details stolen sometime in the middle of 2018, and the fraud actually came in just a week ago. So I was robbed 3 times in 2018, and I figured, given just how rare and how much of an anomaly this really is, again, I've been robbed 0 times in my life. Most people never are robbed any times in their life, let alone once, let alone twice, let alone 3 times. I think I would talk about the experiences that I kind of learned from all of that, because maybe it's valuable to you. I feel like, a lot of the human experience can be learned from other people, and honestly, even if you don't want to take this as like absolute gospel, things that you need to learn, things that will help you out in a big way, I feel like it's the sort of thing that might be useful to someone maybe. And in case it's not, then maybe you just enjoy going along for the ride, because we're going to be working on the destroyed chunk a bit. It's going to be a lot of fun. I hope you do enjoy the video, but let's dive straight into it, because this is going to be a bit different to a normal Let's Play episode, because I wanted to talk about a big kind of overarching subject, and that is the 3 big things I feel like I've learned from the whole process. So yeah, before we go into that though, in case you're curious, like, how did you get robbed 3 times in 2018? Basically, while I was in Santo Domingo, it is in the Dominican Republic, which is one of the like middle income countries in the world. It's fairly near the US, they get a lot of US tourism, and they're, one of the faster improving countries in the world, but there is still a lot of, kind of like bad areas or whatever. And while I was walking from, it was literally the main bus station, again, very safe area, to, it's called like the Colonial Zone, which is a funny way to say like the city center, but they have something called the Colonial Zone. It's like the tourist zone. Again, super, super safe, relative to, what you might consider unsafe. And while I was walking between the two, it happened that I walked through what might have been a bad neighborhood, and literally it was less than a 10-minute walk, but in that time, one, like, it just felt really rough and dangerous, like everything felt like so many steps below the rest of the country, and 2, I had someone on a bike like come past while I was because I was doing some with video, and while I was doing that, they literally grabbed the phone out of my hands, and immediately my brain is like, something is wrong here. I start running, I chase the guy, but you can imagine a guy who does this like professionally versus me, a guy who didn't even expect to have my phone stolen. Wow, what a crazy opinion. Like, he gets away, he's on the back of the bike, and it's just over. I don't have my phone, which is rough, because I don't actually know where my hotel is. It's a good thing that, like, this was a good time to realize that, like, oh, this is why it's so valuable to know, where your hotel is, because in case you get lost on the way there, or you lose your phone, still getting to your hotel, pretty darn important. So, yeah, I was kind of glad that happened that way, honestly, because if it hadn't, it would just been like, what? So, I guess I don't get to stay anywhere tonight, like, because, a lot of details on your phone. If it was my wallet too, then I would literally be trapped there without any way to, like, buy something, like, it would have been a disaster. But fortunately, by the way, it's super dark in here. We'll down here. But fortunately, it was just my phone, so I could still, get everything together. I used my laptop to shut down the phone, but still, I lost the phone, which I'd bought literally the previous month. I went all the way to America. I mean, I went for a big convention, but I also went there to buy this phone. It cost, I think, like $900. It was a brand new flagship phone, which was a cheaper price than it was in the UK. I saved a lot of money by buying it that way, but it was still, like, immediately that amount of money gone, plus all the personal stuff, all the photos. I had videos of the trip. I was doing this big video on, like countries which share 2 islands. It was a really fun video. All of that was gone, and it was like this big kind of heartbreaking moment, I'd say. And then I was robbed for the second time in 2018, funny enough. Literally, I was on the way to the airport, so involves traveling again, which, I mean, I guess is a fairly constant theme. Like, you open yourself up to, like, kind of showing off, like, oh yeah, you're going somewhere where lots of, tourist people go, and tourists are generally, I guess, gonna have more wealth to steal than other people. So I was on a train, going to the airport. It was an entirely empty carriage, and basically I was walking along it a little bit, and literally in a few seconds, I still don't know exactly how someone did this, but an empty carriage, someone jumped on the train, then got the bag, jumped off it in those few seconds so that there was nothing going on, and that, nothing was found until later, where the CCTV reveals that, oh yeah, someone does in fact have a black bag. And this time, it sucked, because it was in the UK, like my home country. I was in a place that I knew was safe. It's a train I take a bunch of times, and, basically, I put my bag in a safer place than most people put them. You know how most trains have luggage racks? I put them at my seat, so it was, like, always visible, always, like, hot, the furthest to get from a door. Like, you have to go for a lot of effort to get this bag. but somehow, just pure coincidence timing, plus someone who wanted to be on a train, because to get past the barriers in any UK train station, you need to, like, have that sort of thing. Some opportunist criminal happened to be there at the right time, in the right place, at 2 a.m., like in an airport, I don't know what that'd be, like a Thursday or something, and it's just like, man, that is rough luck. Like, the first time, I admit, like, okay, there's some fault there. Second time, purely rough luck. Again, you can always say, like, whoa, you should never leave your bag unattended for any single second, but it's like, I mean, we all know that's impractical. It's just, like, about levels of risk and knowing how to keep things safe, but, usually, 0 times robbed in my life. I think I have a pretty good track record, but not when it comes to that, apparently. So, yeah, basically, things got a little bit rough there, and that is how I was robbed twice in 2018. Plus, then during the middle of 2018, so I flew with British Airways maybe 3 or 4 times this year, just because they were the cheapest airline on a route. They used to be the only airline on a route I used to have to fly fairly regularly. In case you're curious, like it was a London to Germany route, and yeah, because of that I booked with them a bunch, and they had a big database hack. And during that day, so also by the way, this year, they also had like their whole flight system go down, but they also had a database hack, and in that database hack, like, I don't know, 10 million people, anyone who booked from like March to June of 2018, had all of their details stolen, and I had booked with every one of my cards in that period, besides my debit cards, so I guess every one of my credit cards during that period, and it's like, I can't get all of these refunded and replaced, and they don't honestly advise that. Like, no credit card company, when there is a hack, says replace them right now. They might slowly replace them, which is what they'll tend to do sometimes, but replacing them all right now is an impractical solution. So they're like, look, honestly, it takes a while for these things to be sold. We have good fraud protection. And it's like, okay, so someone has my details, but they might not actually have them. They might have just theoretically had them. We don't know for sure until actual fraud reports come in. And one of my cards got cancelled by the credit card issuer, and another one got just, I cancelled another one myself because I do that fairly regularly. Fun fact, could talk about credit cards and whatever all day. But basically, I cancelled one myself. I got one cancelled by the issuer. And then the third one, which is my most important one, like it's a card I use all the time for foreign transactions because it has no fee, which is a really, really rare thing, especially in the UK. So it's a card that basically allows me to do something I need to do a lot for free, because, I get paid in foreign, I pay pretty much exclusively in foreign when I'm traveling, and it's like, okay, so I need this card, but what actually happened is somehow those details have been stolen, presumably through this hack, and not another one, and someone tried to use it on Nike.com, because, fun fact, okay, you might not be familiar with this one, I guess it's kind of important, credit cards and debit cards, and just cards that give money to people on the internet seem wildly insecure, but there's actually a bunch of processes. In the US, I think they just block your card and you have to call them up and fix it, even if your bank's not open. But in the UK, at least, the way every card I've ever had works is if it's a slightly suspicious transaction, it requires a password. If it's a really suspicious transaction, they will, send you an automated phone call, and you need to, like, give them a thing. So it's two-factor authentication. Again, super smart, super clever, and it meant that someone tried to buy on Nike.com a pair of new something using my card. Again, my name, my everything. Like, you need my shipping address, my billing address, or you need, I guess not the shipping, but billing address. You need all that stuff. They managed to get all there, but they didn't get the password or they didn't get the phone thing right, which meant that, yeah, that card got immediately cancelled by the bank, and yeah, I don't have one of those anymore. Another one will be issued eventually, but, like, it takes a while to get there or whatever, and basically, that's how I was robbed 3 times, or at least, I guess the third time is an attempted rob. My card details were stolen, but nothing of value was gone, whereas the second time, I lost my bag with literally, a MacBook Pro from 2015. It wasn't mine, so I guess it wasn't my loss, but, I lost an item which I could have sold for some number of thousands of dollars or whatever, and yeah, as well as all my other valuables, like I just bought like a GoPro mount. I was going to do some fun skiing videos using it. Again, that was, so a lot of stuff got robbed, and because of both these experiences, or these 3 experiences I should say, I feel like I've learned a lot about the idea of, like, being robbed or whatever, because honestly, it's the sort of thing where, like, there are so many things in life that, like, they seem like super rare things that will never happen, but, once something happens to you 3 times in a row, I feel like there's a perspective from that maybe I could share, and although it's taken us 8.5 minutes to get here, I feel like maybe it'd be fun to go there anyway. So let's start by talking about the first point. What did I learn from being robbed 3 times in 2018? And that would be, kind of like the dread that you feel immediately afterwards. So, honestly, I always assumed, because again, I mean, it's not something that ever happened or that I assumed would happen, that the biggest problem is like, oh, I lost the thing. Someone, the what being robbed is someone forcibly taking money from you, and then you cannot use it for what you intended to use money for. Instead, they are using it for what they intend to use money for. That's the transaction right there. It's a forcible transaction against your will, and that is a part of it. That's a bad part of it. Do not recommend for that reason. But I think the bigger part of it is, like, immediately afterwards, your brain just isn't ready for loss all the time. When it happens, you're not immediately ready to be like, oh, what do I do now? I took my bed and I moved it somewhere. Because it's an event you're not familiar with, the dread, and that's way worse in a lot of cases. Obviously, I think in the case of losing the £2,000, the bigger part for me was like, I need this stuff right now, and that's a lot of value that I can't immediately replace. And it was this and it was that, and it was like, oh my god, what do I even do about this? And honestly, the biggest thing is like, okay, you just stay calm. You gotta act really, really rational and calm. As soon as you've lost the stuff, it's not coming back. I think it's 97% of it's I don't know the exact actual percentage, but it's absurdly high how few muggings, whatever stuff like that gets solved. So even though and pro tip, that means, honestly, if you live in a country like the US or the UK, why not steal like that? I mean, like, murder is quite a infrequently solved crime. But I mean, like, compared to the kind of upsides, the fact that 97% don't get solved, and those 3% that are getting solved are probably where the criminal waits around or something like that, where it's a family member or something like that. So realistically speaking, if you take someone from something on the street, you kind of get to keep it. It's all down to whether it's in your conscience or not. And because of that, I feel like you just gotta accept, like, okay, sometimes that's gonna happen. I've been mugged, technically speaking, at some form of arm point, because again, everyone has a gun in the first place I mentioned. But on a realistic level, it's like, okay, you're going to lose stuff. Sometimes because it gets taken from your nose, taken from your hand, taken from where you are right now, and sometimes it's more like the sort of situation where, like, oh yeah, well, someone can force you to do that thing. If you live in America, someone's going to hold you up at gunpoint. Like, that's going to happen to you eventually, right? Like, if you are if I was stealing things, like if I was in that level of, desperation, and I lived in a country where guns were widely available, then, gun would really help out my case, I think, personally. And although that technically makes it armed robbery if you rob a place. So pro tip, pro tips for stealing with Toy Cat. Never rob a place with a gun, because that's armed robbery. Even if you pretend to have a gun, in the UK, this happens a lot, where, like, you just pretend you have a gun. That turns it into armed robbery. You have to be really careful about, like, how you imply you have a gun. So, pro tip if you're ever robbing a bank. I swear I haven't put a lot of thought into how to rob a bank before. I swear, it's a fun thing to talk about, right? But no, basically, you just have to accept, like, there's nothing really that can be done about this. And the pain and the dread and the, like, the fear of the unknown, though, the confusion of what is going on right now, that is almost worse than everything else. Because immediately after it happens, you're like, whoa, someone, your whole life you assume this is secure, and then it's not. You're proven in a moment, oh yeah, credit cards are secure, oh, in a moment it's gone. No one will steal a bag. Why would anyone steal a whole bag worth of stuff? It's mostly clothes. Most bags are filled with clothes, and maybe a laptop. That's the high value item you might get. Like, it so happened that my bag had a MacBook, which is on the higher end of laptops in terms of value. I mean, not to me personally, because, using macOS on a laptop, super, super rough thing to do. But in terms of, like, objective value you can sell for, it's a lot, but most of the time it's like a really low value item that's really tricky to steal. It's heavy, it's a bulk, but as it so turns out, it can happen. So I think the biggest thing is, like, okay, there's going to be this big distrust, this big moment of, like, my god, anything can be stolen. And I think that's where my second point comes in, which is that, honestly, you might think to yourself, like, okay, just trying, like, this is a really bad thing, how do you avoid it in any way? But the truth is, no asset, no financial store of wealth can be stored in that way. There is no, type of money or value that can be safe from stealing. Because, okay, so let me tell you about something that makes me sound like I'm full on, like, a crazy paranoid person. You can, like, if you want to believe that's the case, then I have no issue if you believe in so. But I, for a really long time, wanted to buy gold. I feel like gold, as opposed to currency, which inflates every year and loses value, gold is pretty stable over time. In fact, it goes up in value, generally speaking, over time. And because of that, gold is usually considered a pretty good investment. Pro tip, invest in gold. In terms of, like, compared to just leaving money around. If you want to actually make money on money, you usually invest in stocks or something. But, like, if you want to just, like, have money in a really basically liquid form that can be instantly sold, gold is the good way to do that. So, yeah, gold is something that you might think like, that's an easy thing right there. But gold is so easy to steal, and it's entirely untraceable once it's gone. If someone takes your gold bar from your house, your room, your whatever else, it's gone. It's immediately, and if you don't know, right now, I think a kilogram of gold is £30,000 or $30,000, one of the two. It's a very high price if you want to get a kilogram of gold, and a kilogram isn't that much, and it's really easy to steal. And then they've taken like a deposit on a house. In some places, that's a full house payment right there. Gone. They basically can steal a fraction of your house's value just by taking this gold bar. So gold bars, unless you keep them in a safe, which defeats the point of having a super liquid, super portable asset, then it's kind of done like that. So yeah, the more portable and more easily fungible, I guess something is, the more I think it might be tangible, but the more easily that is, then the easier it is for someone to steal it, which is a bad thing, generally speaking. So it's also the other way, like, okay, so if you want to store your money in the bank then, because robbers can't get there. Well, I mean, one, it was almost proven that they did. My brother actually had thousands stolen from his account once, because, like, I don't know, some scam happened to him. I don't know what it was, but he did have money stolen without his consent from his account. Don't know how it happened, but apparently it did. Pretty wild stuff, honestly. And eventually it comes back, because at least with digital cash, there's always a record. You can always get it back if it's proven it went to a fraudster. Easy stuff. Because pro tip, I didn't lose any money. I'm gonna as long as you use a decent credit card, or if it's a debit card of a bank you trust, you get the money back. But it's like, okay, well, now you gotta like physically trust that the bank doesn't go under. And it's like, well, there's an insurance program. If you don't know, every major country will have something called a deposit insurance. If you live in the US or you live in the UK, if you have less than $250,000 or £85,000, and then the bank goes under, you get your money back. The idea behind that is like, oh yeah, so you don't run on the bank. But it realistically means if the bank does go under, the government can't afford to actually pay you back. Like every single person needs to be paid £85,000 from the government. I mean, how do you think that's actually going to go? But I mean, it's a nice platitude. It's like, okay, technically speaking, 85,000 is technically safe, and then above that, it's like, fend for yourself, hope that things go well, and that there isn't a huge collapse. So it's like, okay, you can't keep money in the bank then. Okay, so you keep it in something which gains a lot of value, stocks, bonds, etc. Well, right now, we're going through one of the biggest, I think it's called a bear market when the value of the market goes down. We're going through one of the biggest bear markets of quite some time. The value is going down, it's looking like a recession of 2018, whatever. So it's like, you can't store your money there. Keep your money in physical things, but then physical things lose their value. And also, as well as that, they're easy to steal, as we've proven. And it's just the kind of point that, like, okay, you're going to have setbacks, like on a financial level, as well as like a personal level. Just kind of accept that, because even though a lot of the rest of your life is all about gaining and gaining and always gaining, sometimes you have to accept that sometimes there's going to be a knockback, and you've got to always be prepared for that. If you're not prepared for that, if you assume that nothing is ever going to go down once it's come up, it can't come back down, then that's where some bad things are going to start to happen. So maybe that's useful advice, maybe it's not, but no type of money or value is ever really safe. And the third thing here that I learned is that people are really, really bad at responding to, So, because I don't know what the actual odds on how many people have been stolen from, but it's quite low in the grand scheme of things, because that's why we don't really do things about it. It's a rare event that's hard to track, would take a lot of money to fix a smallish problem, so we don't spend much money properly policing. I get that, that's fine to me. I'm not one of those people who's like, something bad happened to me, so I think that everyone's money should go to fixing this right here. Because even though we all disagree with crime, we all agree that there's an effectiveness rate. Like, we shouldn't send the army after, like a petty thief who stole £10 once. So, that we'll agree there's, some balance. So, whatever. If that balance means that policing, thefts like the one from me doesn't make sense, then sure, okay. That's the system we've all agreed we're apparently going to live under. And basically, one of the things I kind of learned is that people are really, really bad at responding to this. Because, again, not many people have had something where this happened to. Again, my brother had been, physically stolen from once in Mexico City, I think. So, he was like, oh, yeah, this, that, the distrust, or whatever. But most people, I posted on Twitter, oh, yeah, I just need to tell someone about this right now. I was stolen from. It's I'm kind of a bit shaken up or whatever. People are horrifically bad at responding to this. And I don't just mean, terms of, oh, they can't help you out. I mean, people are just... I don't understand how anyone thinks this is okay. Maybe this is maybe I have some emotionally retarded followers. I'm not sure what is wrong with people or me or with the world. But so immediately after I post oh yeah, so my bag was just stolen. Someone's like, maybe keep it with you next time. If you didn't let your bag out your sight, it wouldn't be stolen. And it's that is such horrific advice, things to say to anyone, because even if it was me, literally, I went to the other side of the train, forgot my bag was on that side, and then it was stolen that way, telling me that, like, right now, that is not the thing you need. When someone has just been violently assaulted, you don't go, oh, yeah, so, maybe if you didn't upset, like, trying to, I think it's called, like, victim blaming, and people use it in, like, really abstract terms, but it's literally that in this case, where it's like, a pro tip would be always, like, never try to look at someone who's, just suffered from crime and say, you were the one in the wrong here. This is really all your fault. Because that's not, like, I'd say half of any crime is, like, especially a financial one, is, like, the big setback. Like, oh, I can't buy things worth X amount because I have to replace my laptop, I have to replace my clothes, I have to replace all these things. That sucks on the one level, but what sucks more is all the other stuff, and people going in there like, oh, I don't know, just the way people are so bad at responding, I never anticipated it. Maybe it's because I'm, like, a semi-public figure, like, some people know me, and they're like, oh yeah, well, I mean, therefore you're not a real human, and we don't have to treat you like one. I really don't know what it is or how this happens, but the fact that some number of people thought that, it happened both times. I was like, okay, I like to share with you as many, like, public things as I can. It's a bizarre thing, but it's what I do. It's part of being on Twitter, I feel like, like, sharing what's going on. I like Twitter because it's a good, like, way to share the second half of YouTube, the other half, what's going on between videos and stuff, because if I post once a day, then that means there's some big updates that can happen in between. Twitter's a great place for that. I like to share things, and I guess it comes with the territory, but the fact that anyone thinks that's, like, a useful or correct or that, like, it blew my mind away that it happened not just once, twice, 3 times, multiple times in both occasions, and it's like, my god, I hope no one you ever know or care about has that happen to them, because you are genuinely horrific at, like, responding to that, because, again, it's, a big part of it, like, it seems like it would be one thing, but it's actually the other thing, and I guess that's actually the big conclusion of today's video. It's like, 2018 was a year of being robbed many times, and I hope that will be the last, but I think the truth is, you just gotta accept, in your head, like, yeah, things are temporary, things, before I used to, back when I first bought a new phone, I was like, this can be a forever phone. When I first bought PC, I was like, oh, future-proof the PC, that's a ridiculous tech term, like, oh yeah, I'll get a future-proof phone, a future-proof PC, this will last me forever, or this will last me for 5 years, this laptop will, but I mean, realistically speaking, nothing ever lasts you that long, and being realistic about stuff, like, I've always thought one of the hardest things to do in life and in the real world is to, be honest and be realistic with things to yourself. And because, if you're not being like that, then when you're not honest about saying, yeah, there is a tiny chance I might lose this, be willing to accept that sometimes. I think it almost sounds like I'm trying to be like, be more grateful for the things you have. That's not my opinion. Be as ungrateful for what you have as you like to be. I think that's one of the great things about life. Like, you can, you can be what you want to be. You can do what you want to do about things. You don't have to be grateful if you don't want to. It's a good thing. But if someone just says be grateful, that doesn't mean you're actually going to care about things. That's there's a lot of slogans where it's like, well, thanks for the advice, but I'm not going to take any of that. But I do think just being ready for something to happen at any time means that when it does, you'll be like, oh, yeah, that thing that could happen. And yeah, I think it's really easy to not properly evaluate the possibilities of something. But if you just spend a little bit of time doing it, I think it's generally better because, when every single year you're not robbed is something you should be slightly thankful for. Not, like, outwardly thankful, like, oh, I praise insert DT that I, praise here for making this happen. But, like, kind of more like, oh, yeah, well, this didn't happen. I'm kind of lucky. Go me. That was a good thing. Every single year that, like, society doesn't collapse and this and that, it's something we should be proud of. And it's kind of like, the big problem with the world right now. To go a little bit geopolitical, not political, but like, how is the world going, whatever. Every single year, we get further away from the last big war that humanity went through. And we kind of forget that, like, oh yeah, if we're not careful, if we don't keep ourselves at bay, every now and then, humans just start killing other people on, like, mass scales, which had never been seen before. And it's a good thing to stop that. And that's actually, like, a real opinion I do hold. Like, let's just appreciate that the state we're in right now is not always the default state of being. There is a lot of effort and a lot of luck and a lot of people's work that goes into making what is right now happen. Even to have the electricity which you're watching this video, or will charge your device if you're watching this on a portable thing, but the electricity required for this video in some way or another, that required, like, if there was no one manning the electricity station, that would stop very quickly. There's a lot of things like that where it's like, oh yeah, there's a lot of maintenance required for everything in humanity, which is not to say that, like, oh yeah, everything's bad, the world's going to go down, just feel bad about everything. That's not my message for today. But what I think my message is for today is that, man, the modern world is cool, but also a lot of rare things do happen. Eventually, you will get, I don't know, driver. Eventually, you will this, that, and if you try to ignore those facts, I mean, you can only ignore them till they happen, and then the shock of something you didn't expect to happen, despite having every piece of knowledge you needed to know that it would happen, then that'll start to shock you. Anyway, with that said, I think that's a good enough place to end today's video. So in the meantime, I hope you did all enjoy this one. You can like it if you did like it, because it helps out the channel. Let us know you do like the Let's Play Monday, as always. I think it's a fun time, and if you do too, then a like is the best way to let me know. This was a really different one. I kind of wanted to just monologue on a big topic. If you thought that was good, then yeah, let me know. If you thought that, man, that went on for quite some time, let me know there too, because I've got this out of my system now. Again, you'd figure like, oh man, that's gotta like really weigh on you, but I think I'm like mostly good with it now. It's just in terms of, as long as it's only my stuff physically at risk, like it makes me realize that any time there's a tiny risk on your life, for instance, that is a big one, because, you know, you can always replace any physical thing, even if it's hard. But, man, it would suck if I lost my life, right? That would be bad. That's not good. And maybe that's motivational. Maybe it's the opposite, actually. You know, I don't even know anymore. All I know is that I have a bunch of stone now from all this stone mining, which means I can work on my nether pathway some more, which is a thing I want to do, if you'll recall from my New Year's resolutions. Or it's actually not in the New Year's resolutions, but it's another one that's not in there that I want to do regardless. So yeah, we're going to get a lot of stuff. It's going to be a lot of fun. And I hope that I see you all in the next video, because thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.